You guys are getting ready for Gimel Tammuz? When's it going to be on Shabbos?
It's going to be on Shabbos, yeah. I'm still being convinced why I should have a relationship with a rabbi who might have never had the opportunity to.
Okay.
Now you have a dollar. So.
It's true, but it doesn't change.
I heard a story. It's going to be the Rebbe's yahrzeit next Shabbos.
Which Rebbe?
Their Rebbe.
Yeah.
Our rabbi.
The Lubavitcher Rebbe, your Rebbe, you're a Lubavitcher. You come from a Lubavitcher family. He saw the Rebbe when he was 15 years old.
It's next Shabbos, so it's actually it's going to be the Shabbos for a break.
My parents became.
I'm going to be a Shvat.
My parents
became. You too?
Chabad.
You think they'll do something? They'll do something, right?
When I was in my 20s. I wasn't raised that way.
No. Anyway,
There
so.
are two kinds of Jews in the world anyway. There's Chabad and not yet Chabad, right?
See? So I heard a story that somebody told me in New York. There was this wedding, Bel Shiva boy, and everybody is dancing, and he sees that the chossen's grandfather is just sitting on the side, an elderly man, is just sitting on the side, and he's not participating in the dancing. So this rabbi goes over to him, and he says, would you like to dance? It's your grandson's wedding, and I'll help you. Like if we'll dance slowly. So he says, no. He's not dancing because he just had a bris this week. So he says, wow, like the guy's like an 80-year-old guy from Russia or something like that. So the rabbi was so touched by that. So he wanted to know the rest of the story. So he said that he's from Russia, and he didn't have a bris there. And what happened is that his grandson told him that he'd like to give him, and he wasn't into it. He wasn't into having a bris, for whatever reason. And his grandson told him he wants to give him a bracha under the chuppah, but he will only do it if he has a bris. So he finally agreed, and he went ahead and had a bris. And at 80 years old, somebody's at the door. Can you get the door, please? I'll wait for you. And so finally he has a bris so that he can make a bracha at the wedding. And so the rabbi was so impressed. Hast du Platz? Eine ganze Woche bist du nicht gewesen. So the rabbi was so impressed, he took out his wallet and he says, here, I have $1 from the Rebbe that I got from the Rebbe years ago. And I always keep it with me. I always treasure it. But I want to give it to you. And he gives it to this man. And the guy fainted. So there's more water here. Here. So he fainted. And then they revived him. And why did you faint? He says, because when he first came to America, a friend of his took him to see the Rebbe when the Rebbe was handing out dollars. And when he was in front of the Rebbe said to him, have you been circumcised? And he said, no. And he wasn't ready to do it. So the Rebbe gave him $1, and he says, I'll give you another $1 when you have a bris.
Wow.
And so that week he had a bris, and this rabbi comes and gives him $1.
Wow.
Amazing.
And that was after the passing of the Rebbe?
Yeah, just last year. Anyway, so here we are. We've been learning this piece called Moshiach Eyes, and what page are we on, Nicole?
We're on page 17.
17. Okay, so what I'm going to do is today is I'm going to sort of like leave this in the middle. Michal, you'll keep track of where we stopped. And we're going to go to a piece that we did recently.
Preaching this one.
They're all the same.
Are there others?
We're going to go to page 56.
Are these books written in English?
It was translated from talks that he gave. There are some books in English, yes. But, yeah. Okay. Eilecha Hashem ekra v'yel Hashem eschanan. Eilecha Hashem ekra v'yel Hashem eschanan. Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Hashem v'yazeli. Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Hashem v'yazeli, Hashem v'yazeli. Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Shema Hashem v'chaneini, Shema Yezeli, Hashem Yezeli, Eilecha Hashem ekra v'yel Hashem eschanan. Eilecha Hashem ekra El Hashem eschanan. Shema Hashem chaneini, Hashem yezeli. Shema Hashem chaneini, Hashem yezeli. Page 56. We're going to skip around a little bit in this teaching. The teaching is on Parshat Behalotcha, where it speaks about Aaron HaKohen lighting the menorah, and it says, "Vayas Kein Aaron lit the menorah as he was instructed to do." If you remember that verse, right? And Rashi says over there that why does the Torah say Aaron did as he was told to do? What did you think he's going to do? Of course he's going to do as he was told to do. Michal, you put the table like this.
I wouldn't want to go around this way.
So he did as he was told to do, and of course he's going to do as he was told to do. So Rashi says that the Torah is praising him shelo shina, that he didn't change, he didn't make any changes. Now the simple shot on that is that you're doing a mitzvah every day for 40 years. To be able to do it every day as if you're doing it for the first time with as much dedication and as much attention to the mitzvah, and it doesn't become a habitual thing. That itself is an extremely praiseworthy thing, right? Like you can imagine, like compare how you put on tefillin today to the first time that you put on tefillin, right? Did you hopefully you had the same intention and the same excitement in doing the mitzvah, but habit is there's something positive to habit and there's something negative to habit, right? When things become habitual, it's a problem. As a matter of fact, it's a very interesting thing. When Moshe Rabbeinu sees the burning bush and he approaches the burning bush, so what does Hashem say to him? He says, Shal na'alecha mi'al raglecha. Take your shoes off your feet. Now, there's a Hasidic word that na'al in Hebrew is also a lock. And raglecha is your feet or your habits. Ragil means regular. Ragil is one of those Hebrew words that moved into English. Ragil, regular. Things that you do regularly. So Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you're standing on holy ground. Take the locks off your habits. In other words, be ready to go higher. In any case, coming back to this, to be able to do a mitzvah every day with the same excitement like you're doing it for the first time is a very, very high level. So that itself is a big praise for Aaron, that Shlosh Shina, he didn't make any changes. In other words, he kept on doing it with the same excitement, with the same attention as he always did when he first started doing it. Now, Reb Shlomo is going to be giving a whole different interpretation over here, okay? And he says that you would imagine that the high priest, that the Kohen Gadol, what's he doing all day? He's sitting there in the Beit HaMikdash and, in a fancy little space, and he's waiting for the animals to be brought to do the sacrifices, and then he spends the rest of the day meditating until he does the afternoon sacrifice and lights the menorah and so on and so on. But what does Hillel tell us about Aaron the Kohen in Pirkei Avot? Havei mitalmidav shel Aaron, be a student of Aaron. How? Ohev shalom, he loved peace. V'rodev shalom, he pursued peace. Ohev et habriot, he loved people. Mikarban laTorah, and he would bring them closer to the Torah. You were here when we learned this last time, Ben? Do you remember? No? I was, but yeah.
Last week, right?
No, it was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So the reason I'm going over this again is because in this particular piece, Reb Shlomo is contrasting Aaron with Korach, right? Korach is claiming, this week's parsha, Korach is claiming that what's this business about just having one Kohen Gadol? Why don't you open it up to anybody that wants to be like that, should be able to be like that? So he's going to be contrasting Aaron and Korach. But the important thing to know, first of all, is there's a sefer called Sefer Haredim, which was written by the assistant, the Gabbai of the Arizal, but 400 years ago. And he brings the teaching over there, he brings the medrash, that just like there are yeshivas in this world, there are also yeshivas in Shemayim, and that Aaron the Kohen has a yeshiva. And if you want to be accepted as a student in Aaron the Kohen's yeshiva, so Hillel is telling us, here's the admission requirement, that while you're here on earth, you have to be Ohev Shalom, you have to love peace, Ohev et Habriot, love people, Rodev Shalom, pursue peace, and Ohev et Habriot, love people in the Kavah. And if you live your life this way, you'll be accepted into Aaron the Kohen's yeshiva. I hope that we'll see you all there. Okay? Now, so Hillel is saying, what was Aaron the Kohen doing? He was busy among the people. He would be out in the street, he'd see people, two guys, two partners, two friends got into an argument, he'd go and he'd make peace between them. He'd see somebody that was feeling really down. He'd say, hey, what's going on, brother? And he'd say, I had a big fight with my wife, and Aaron the Kohen would go and make peace between them, and so on. Okay? Now the question how he made peace between them, that is a big question itself. But the main thing to first of all understand, go to the third paragraph on page 56. And Rav Shlomo says, אני בטוח שאהרון הכהן היה מאחר כמעט כל יום להקרבת הקורבן. Now, he's being a little bit tongue-in-cheek over here. He says, I'm sure that Aaron the Kohen must have been a little bit late every day when it came to bringing the sacrifice, בגלל שהוא היה מתעסק בעשיית שלום בין אנשים, because he was busy making peace between people. Now, here's the important point, the really important point. Otam sfatayim kedoshot, those very same holy lips, shahayu motzi'in et shem Hashem hameforash, that would utter the explicit divine name, b'yom kippurim, on Yom Kippur, when he'd go into the Holy of Holies, he would actually utter and pronounce fully God's name. Right? When we say Hashem's name, we don't pronounce the Yud Kei Vav Kei, we pronounce Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. But on Yom Kippur, Aaron HaKohen would actually pronounce the name as it was meant to be pronounced. So those very same lips that uttered God's name, Hayu Osot Shalom Bein Anashim, those lips all year long were busy making peace between people. In other words, the point over here is like this. The point is, what is the significance of saying Hashem's name? Besides all the Kabbalistic things that are involved in that, okay? But more practical, every mitzvah in the Torah is meant for every one of us. It's just that we have 3 garments of the soul. You guys know this stuff. Thought, speech, and action. So in thought and in speech, every mitzvah of the Torah is for every one of us. It's in action that there are separations between Kohen, Levi, Yisrael, man, woman, adult, child, etc., etc. But as far as learning the mitzvah, speaking the mitzvah, understanding the mitzvah, every mitzvah applies to every one of us. So if we know that Aaron the Kohen said the divine name on Yom Kippur, right? And I want to know, what does this mean to me? Practically. So Rav Shlomo says, you want to understand what it means to say the divine name? Take a look at that person who said the divine name. What were those lips doing the rest of the year? They were making peace between people. Okay? They were making peace between people. In other words, to say Hashem's name implies that you care enough that when you see that 2 people aren't getting along, you're going to go and make peace between them. You understand why? When you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, God is one, and you see people fighting, is the oneness of God apparent when people are fighting? No. On the contrary, when people get angry, right, the Shekhinah takes off, right? If you really believe in the oneness of God and you really care about the oneness of God, and you see division, you care about it enough that you want to go and make peace between the people. Okay, that's.
Is it because what you just said? Is it because I believe it says God, the Torah, and Israel are one?
Well, it's related. It's that's right. It's related, definitely. Yeah. But you see, if you daven and you have like you really daven, you did his boinenness, and maybe you did Tikkun Chatzos. You know what Tikkun Chatzos is? Like the rest of the Hasidim get up at midnight and they do this whole long thing of prayers every night. You look like you did that last night. Yeah, but you won't admit it. That's what you were doing, yeah.
Flesh counts.
That you were up doing these special prayers for the Beit HaMikdash to be rebuilt. Right? Good. Baruch Hashem. You remember too.
Not gonna happen with that.
Huh?
It's not gonna happen with that.
It's not going to happen without you. we need you. So you daven, you say Shema Yisrael, you daven the Shemoneh Esrei, right? And then you come to the Farbrengen or to the Kiddush, and you look around and you say, oh, can't stand this guy, can't stand this guy. Or like, that food is for me, and you grab it, you don't want somebody else to have it, and so on. So that means that there's something lacking in the way you were davening. Not that you shouldn't daven, but maybe you should, like you should understand it, you got to daven better, because if you really were davening better, like, and there's one piece of kishka there, and you want it, but you know that your friend wants it also, you'd be so happy to give it to him, right? Because you want to make, you want to give more unity, more joy, etc., right? So that's what you would likely do. So he says like this, Lumat Aharon, and here's the part where he's contrasting Aaron with Korach. Lumat Aharon Yeshet Korach. In distinction to Aaron, we have Korach, this week's parsha. Korach haya mistavev barachov im shnei gabayim beinayim skurot. Shlomo is describing Korach as this holy man who walks in the street with his eyes closed, and he's got two assistants so that he shouldn't have to open his eyes. He looks like a rebbe. And he talks only with other rebbes. And even then he only opens his eyes halfway. Right? He looks like a really holy man. And but the service that Aaron HaKohen was doing, Aaron HaKohen was working primarily with people. In other words, even though he was the high priest, and you would think that as the high priest, what's he doing? He's busy in the temple the entire time, right? But the fact is that Aaron HaKohen was spending a lot of his time just working with people. Lo haya maftia oti, I wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be surprised if he was walking around and dressed like you guys are dressed, with jeans, shirts, and dressed like everybody else.
I don't think I would apply what
Yeah, but Shlomo wouldn't be surprised if he was dressed like everybody else. Okay? And right? He probably was like making himself really accessible to everybody. So, so when you look from the outside, Shalom Reb David, we're on page 57. We just skipped a little bit because Shlomo is comparing Aaron HaKohen with Korach right now. Okay? We learned it before, but we're going over it now because it's the parsha and so on. Page 57 at the top. When you look from the outside, superficially, Korach looks like the holy guy, like the holy one, right? So he's wearing his kapota, he's wearing his shtreimel, he's got two gaboim, doesn't open his eyes. After all, is it really holy to walk around the people like Aaron HaKohen, right? Elama, be'emet zohi hakdusha hamitit, but that's the true holiness. Harei ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so what is God doing all the time? Yoshev b'shamayim v'sholech pitkaot arsa. Do you think that God is up in heaven just sending notes down to earth? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, Meloch Chol Haaretz Kevodo, all the world is filled with His glory. Hashem nimtza b'chol makom. Hashem is everywhere. Okay? So, since it's already a week before Gimel Tammuz, and we started talking about the Rebbe, before I tell you a story. Last year I was coming out of the subway in New York, or I was at Penn Station or whatever it is. There's this black guy, he's selling these little toys, and so I bought something. So he says to me, "1 second, I gotta take this." Shalom. I'm Baruch Hashem, okay. Yeah, gesundheit. Be happy to see you. I'll be happy to see you. Bye-bye. Yeah, good. Thank you. See you. Shalom Schwartz's wife needs refuah. Brucha at bat Zlata. She should have a refuah shleima. So, so he says to me, he says, "Did you know the rabbi there in Crown Heights? The rabbi." So he said, "Yeah, he's telling, a guy in his 40s or whatever." So I said, "Yeah." So he said, "You know him too?" She says, "Yeah." He says he used to sit on Eastern Parkway and play chess. I mean, maybe must have been in his 50s. And the Rebbe would walk by and look at the board, and he would tell me what move to make. Anyway, Crown Heights was a center not just for Lubavitch. Until the 60s, until there was this whole blockbusting business, the Baba Chassidim were there, other Chassidim were there, and so on. And so a relative of mine, a lot of my family used to live in Crown Heights. They weren't Lubavitchers, but there was this relative, Rabbi Avram Matzner, who back in Poland, he was an Alexander Chassid. And he told me that, he used to go daven early in the morning, because he had a shop on Nostrand Avenue and Eastern Parkway. And when he'd come back from shul, he would, almost every day, he would meet the Rebbe. The Rebbe used to walk by himself from his house on President to 770, and he would pass. They would pass each other, and this is and so every morning, the Rebbe always said good morning to him first, and this bothered him because in the Hasidus that he grew up in, the custom was that you go over to your Rebbe, you kiss his hand, and that's how you greet him. You don't, you're the one who goes over to the Rebbe. So it's been in Monroe, a Muncie, this was for Muncie at the Monroe, Muncie, right? Guys, learn Yiddish. And so. Now, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai lived to 120 years. And the students asked him, in what merit did you live so long? And he says, in all my life, nobody managed to say hello to me first. Rav Shlomo explained, how could that be? Rav Shlomo explained, because he was so excited to see a creation of God, he couldn't wait to say hello to him. Can you get the door, Moshe? And so he decided this mustn't be. So every day, like when they're about 15 feet apart, the Rebbe says hello to him. He'll give him a book. Wow, you look fancy today. Okay. So every day, the Rebbe, so they would say hello when they were 50 feet apart. So he decided, tomorrow, when the Rebbe's going to be about 20, 25 feet apart, away from me, I'm going to say hello right away. So the Rebbe's coming, and he's measuring with his eyes. He's measuring the distance, and he's about to say hello, and the Rebbe's already waving to him. So he decides, tomorrow, 100 feet away, I'm going to say good morning to him. So the Rebbe is coming, and he's like, this is about 100 feet. He's about to say hello. The Rebbe is already waving to him. Now, in those Eastern Parkway blocks are long blocks. He says, tomorrow, as soon as the Rebbe turns the corner, I'm saying hello to him. The next morning, the Rebbe is turning the corner, and the Rebbe is waving to him. I never managed to say hello to the Rebbe first. Anyway, so the Rebbe used to walk with open eyes. Understand? Now, in guarding your eyes is very important. There's no question about it, right? You got to watch what you look at, because if you're looking at things that you shouldn't look at, it damages our inner vision. That's a fact. Okay? It damages our inner vision. And those of us who grew up in the West and we watched all those movies, etc., and and like when you walk on the street, you see the Haredim, like they're always covering their eyes. You got to be careful. It's not such a simple thing that when you see an attractive person coming towards you, to look in their eyes, not to look elsewhere. To see the person, not to see the rest. That is okay.
But it's difficult.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Because
Amshinav Rebbe told me to take my glasses off, not to wear my glasses in the street. I'm going to try to listen to him.
Then you might look at the wrong thing by mistake.
It's an avodah.
Rabbi Nachman says he saw a chassid walking to see a woman crying and walked into a tree. And Rabbi Nachman said, called over, he said, it should be that when you see a woman, it should be like you're looking at a tree.
Yeah.
this is beautiful.
I guess we're not on that level. Probably not.
The tree is beautiful.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is avodah, right? Now, so Rav Shlomo was saying, if saying Hashem's name means something to you, where does it? It has to get translated in the way you relate with people and how much you care about when people are in an argument. How much you care about them. How much you want them to live to get along, and you want them to live in peace. You have to really, really care about it. Okay? So he says that go down to the bottom, towards the bottom of the page, a paragraph that begins with the word ha'emet. On page 57. You see it's about 8 lines up. Ha'emet, it's actually not 10 lines up. Okay. Ha'emet hi shebrama lo mashichit. On a non-Mashiach level, be'inayim lo mashichiyot, with non-Mashiach eyes, meaning to say with eyes that are just looking superficially. Korach hu be'emet kadosh. On a superficial level, Korach is really holy. Hu kolkach kadosh, he's so holy that שכאשר הוא מסתובב ברחוב עם הגבאים שלו, הוא אפילו לא פותח את העיניים. He doesn't dare to open his eyes because he's so holy. Right? And כי הוא מפחד שחלילה יראה משהו לא קדוש. He's afraid he might see something that isn't holy. But in the meantime, כל היהודים השפורים עוברים על ידו, but in the meantime, all the broken Eden are passing by him. והוא לא שם לב, and he's not paying any attention to them, מרוב שהוא שומר את עיניו בקדושה, because he's so busy keeping his eyes protected to be holy. So he says, דעו לכם, says Rav Shlomo, שזוהי לא קדושה אמיתית. You should know that this is not the real kedusha. אך בעולם לא משיחי, but in a non-Mashiach world, בעולם חיצוני, in a superficial world, זה מה שנקרא קדושה, this is what's called holy. Holiness. כתוב בזוהר הקדוש, it says in the Holy Zohar, שקורח חלק על השבת, that Korach was arguing against Shabbos. Hayim Korach lo shamar et Shabbat Kodesh? Does that mean to say that Korach didn't keep the holy Shabbos? Ani batuach, I'm certain, shehu dikdei b'hilchot Shabbat ki chut hasa'ara. I'm sure that he was careful with keeping Shabbos down to a hair's breadth, like watching every halacha. Elama, but what does that mean that he argued on Shabbos? Hu chalak al kol ha'olam ha'pnimi. He was arguing against the inner world. See, Shabbos. See, 6 days a week you're doing work, you're doing things. It's all external, it's all superficial, right? Shabbos, you're not doing anything. What are you doing? It's all deep inside, right? Ki b'shvilo haShabbat niret kemo yom rishon. So for Korach, Shabbos was like another day of the week, and that you have a different behavior on Shabbos. That means, in other words, he wasn't tuned in to the inner dimension. Now this. If you were to extrapolate this a little bit, well, let's read the next paragraph for a moment. When you have superficial eyes, Shabbat nireit kemo yom rishon, right? Shabbos looks like a weekday. But when you have Shabbos eyes, the world looks completely different. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer Lanu, God is telling us, the real question is, Lo Haim Livcho Ben Aaron LeKorach. The question is not, are you going to choose Aaron or Korach? Hashela hi Haim HaKol Pnimi or Chitzoni. Is your life inner directed, or are you paying attention to the inner dimension of your life, or is everything superficial? Rav Shlomo tells the story that the Tzemach Tzedek wanted to see the Holy Rishon Rebbe, but he was already old and he couldn't travel to Rishon, so he sent one of his Chassidim, Rabbi Ezel Hameler, to go there for Shabbos, and that on his behalf. And when Rabbi Ezel came back, he related that if 10 minutes before Shabbos, he was invited into the Rishner's Rebbe, to the Rishner's room, and because the Rishner wanted him to be there, like a special guest, as an emissary of the Tzemach Tzedek. And he says, you would expect, come into the Rishner's room 10 minutes before Shabbos, and you would imagine that he's probably deep in the passage of Zohar or whatever, but no, the Rishner was smoking his pipe, didn't say anything, filling up the room with smoke. And then exactly as Shabbos was about to come in, he puts the pipe down and he goes over to the window and he says to Rabbi Ezel, Russo should go, and Rabbi Ezel was known as a great Talmudic scholar. He calls them over and they look out the window. He says, do you see the clouds of the week moving away and making place for the clouds of Shabbos? Do you see the wind of the week moving away and making place for the wind of Shabbos? Okay. Right? In other words, if you have the eyes, you can see that the world itself is changing on Shabbos. For me, it's a story, you know what I mean? But to be on that level, that the world physically looks different to you on Shabbos. It's an amazing thing. Okay? So the point is this. Korach, and I'm basing this on a teaching from Rav Steinsaltz in the Parsha. Korach is presenting a pretty strong argument. Everybody is holy. Why is the Kohane, Moshe the Tir, move over here so she's a woman coming in. So we can just move to right behind or whatever, yeah. Korach is what do you call it? Can I have your book and you'll share with Moshe? Korach is Korach is presenting a pretty strong argument. You know, when it comes to being a Rosh Yeshiva, they don't ask you who was your father, who was your mother, what yichus do you have. The real question is, how well do you know how to learn, right? And learning is open to everybody, right? So Korach is coming with 250 holy people. The Medrash says among them were members of the Sanhedrin. They weren't just like, they weren't ordinary guys from the street, okay? 250 holy people, and Korach is saying, open it up, open up the kahuna. Let anybody who wants to live this life of kahuna, let it be accessible to them. The problem with Korach was that that wasn't his real motivation. His real motivation was jealousy. Now you might sometimes get into an argument with somebody, and you might have very good arguments, very good points, right? But examine yourself and to see deep inside what is your true motivation. And that was the problem with Korach. His motivation was not, and that's why Korach dies differently than the other 250 people. See, the Nadav and Avihu, when they offered the incense that they weren't commanded to do, they also died, right? A fire came out from God and consumed them, right? And also these 250 people, right? What happened to them? How did they die?
Fire.
They died from a holy fire. And there the pshat is that they were doing a holy service, but because they weren't commanded to do it, it was too holy for them. So they didn't have the vessels to engage in such a holy activity without being consumed by it, right? But Korach, Moshe Rabbeinu prays that the earth should open its mouth and swallow him up, so that it should be clear that his motivation was not the same. The 250 guys, that they were actually motivated to do something holy, and Korach, it was kinah, it was jealousy.
Korach actually believed that Moshe Rabbeinu was not instructed by God. He actually believed
Did he believe that Moshe Rabbeinu was not instructed by God? That's a good question. He believed that Moshe Rabbeinu was instructed by God, but he was claiming that Moshe Rabbeinu was adding to it things of his own.
It wasn't the main thing. He didn't deny that Moshe was Moshe. He just thought that everyone should.
That was how he lured in the 250 people with
But
him.
he had his own.
But he has his own agenda. Okay? And the point is, why don't you do it like this? It will be better. It will look better. Works?
I'll say it ready.
Yeah. I also washed the floor here too. Which is, by the way, easier to do with kavanah than it is to daven with kavanah. Okay?
And when you did it, you did it.
Right. And I see that we have similar familiarities, right?
Korach was such a hierarchy that he couldn't figure this out for himself. He jealous.
That's why the Mishnah says, "Hakina v'hatava v'hakavod, motziin et adam min ha'olam." Jealousy and lust and pursuit of honor take you out of the world. You heard the story about this Meshulach? You know what a Meshulach is? You know what a Meshulach is?
Yeah.
These guys who would travel around to town, going collecting money for the yeshiva or whatever it is. So this Meshulach comes to a certain town, and the rabbi there used to be his chavrusa. in yeshiva. So he's staying over at the rabbi's house, and the rabbi gives him a list of people to go see the next day. And he goes around and he's meeting all these different people, asking for the donations. And in the meantime, he says, "So what do you think of the rabbi? What do you think of the rabbi?" You know, and everybody's cursing out the rabbi, saying, "I can't stand him. He's an oisvurf. He's this. He's that." And he comes back at night to the rabbi's house. He says, "Yankel, do you know what the people in town think about you? They So he says, "Yeah, they can't stand me. They think I'm terrible." So he says, "Well, why are you hanging around in this town?" So he says, "What don't you do for a little bit of covet?" Okay, right? For a little bit of covet, people are ready to sell their soul. For jealousy, people are ready to sell their soul. For lust, people are ready to sell their soul. These are dangerous things. Now, the problem with jealousy versus, let's say two people can't stand each other, you can make peace between them because one did something to the other one, so they can apologize. But jealousy is something that the other person that you're jealous of, he didn't do anything wrong to you. He didn't do anything against you, and you're jealous. He could even be supposedly your best friend, your neighbor, it could be your brother, right? And you could be jealous. Jealousy is a very difficult thing to uproot. Jealousy is related to the 10th commandments of do not covet what belongs to somebody else, and it's related to the first commandment, I am Hashem, your God. In other words, if you're coveting what somebody else has, that means to say what's bothering you, it's not that you want the same thing, what's bothering you is that he has it and you don't have it. It means you're not trusting that Hashem has given you exactly what you need. Hashem is giving every one of us exactly what we need. If I think that, how come he got it and I didn't get it, that means I don't trust the way God distributed the goods. Right?
Is there any way how one who is being jealous of can make shalom with someone who...
I doubt it. Maybe.
Moshe would have gone to Korach and made shalom with him?
Yes.
He tried to. Yeah.
Yeah, but Korach...
But you see, that's the thing, is that now you see, so he goes to Datan and Abiram and he tries to make peace with them, but they refuse. But with them, there's a possibility of making peace with them because they just can't stand him. There's not jealousy. But with Korach, it's jealousy. And jealousy, only the person who's jealous can fix it. Right?
There are two people in shul who are jealous of me, and I don't know how to handle it.
Well, just why don't you let them ride your motorcycle?
I don't think that's it.
Okay.
One person at the shore is jealous of you.
Are they sure?
Moshe, nacham about it here.
I know all these.
Shkoyach.
I'm jealous of you.
You are allowed to be, one is allowed to be jealous of another person's
Scholarship.
Yes?
Kinas seifrim tar v'chachma. Right. Because that motivates you to, but it's not that you don't want the other guy to learn, you want it also. Okay, so the way Reb Shlomo ends off this teaching, so hang on, let's continue. It says, Kasher HaMeraglim Higiu, we're on the third paragraph on 58. Kasher HaMeraglim Higiu L'Eretz Yisrael Hem Hotziu Aleh Dibah, the spies spoke against Israel, page 58. Hayta lehem ota baya, they had the same problem as Korach. Hayu lehem einayim chitzoniyot, they were looking at everything with external eyes. Right? Ben adam yachol lavo liYerushalayim v'lirot rak et hachitzoniyot. Person can come to Yerushalayim, the holy city, and just see it superficially. Kama batim, kama pachei ashpa, how many houses are there, how many how many garbage cans, mahu hakotel hamaraviv b'shvilo im lo od kama avanim, and what's the kotel if not a few more stones? Ma ken motzei chen beinav, what does he like? Binyanim habnuyim l'tiferet, he likes new beautiful buildings, malon chadash b'Yerushalayim, and b'rechat schiyah b'fnim, a new hotel with an indoor pool, right? So kasher yesh lecha einayim chitzoniyot, when you have superficial eyes, external eyes, that you're not really seeing anything. Achim yesh lecha einayim pnimiyot. But if you have deep eyes, gewalt ata roeh hakol, then you see everything. And here's an important point. Kasher Aaron HaKohen ra'a et ha'bal ha'avera hachi gadol, when Aaron HaKohen saw the biggest sinner. אתם חושבים שהוא היה אומר לו כמה הוא גרוע? Do you think he told this person how bad he is? אלא, what did he do instead? שהבל עבירה היה נהיה פתאום ליהודי פנימי בנוכחותו. This big sinner, all of a sudden in his presence, became so deeply connected. The depth of this person started illuminating outwards, right? Why do people go to tzaddikim? Well, for different reasons, but there are among them, living life in this world, it's not so difficult to sometimes feel like, do I still have a soul, right? Where's my soul? Like what happened, right? But when you go to a tzaddik or a tzaddikus, that's what they see in you. They're not looking at, like this is guys from Tabas, the hand with blow, what are you wearing colored shirts? You're dressed like this. They don't see that. They see deeply. They see your neshama. They're looking at your neshama. And when somebody else is looking at your neshama, right, then that gets aroused. So Judy's there. That's what gets aroused. Your soul gets aroused, So that's the big Inyan.
And that's the reason why one gets a bracha from a tzaddik, because the tzaddik looks in your neshama,
even
what you need.
Yeah. Even if you don't actually get a bracha, just making eye contact. Just to be seen by, because you all of a sudden you feel like, hey, I still have a neshama. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? And let me tell you a little secret. This is what every one of us is supposed to be doing when you meet somebody. To see, here's another person with a neshama, right? So maybe the person is like superficially looking like a bum. Well, if you're going to look at that, if that's what you're going to see, that's what you're going to get. You know what I mean? What did they call it when they were first selling computer programs? There was something called WYSIG or something like that. What you see is what you get, and that's what it is. Anyway, so and that's what we need to do for each other. When we say hello to each other, you need to do that. You need to see deeply into the person and arouse their soul and so on. Okay, and you don't have to be like like floating up there, spiritual type of person. So down here, down to earth. Good morning. You might be saving the person's life just in the way you're saying good morning. Okay?
And is that possibly the reason why one goes to the kever of the tzaddik?
Also,
and prays that the tzaddik should intercede because the olam ha'emes, the tzaddik looks to your neshama intercedes for what you need.
There's more to it than that, but that's something that I don't have very much expertise in, so I'm not going there. Okay, but yes, it's definitely involved with that.
See, one of the good things about being an Abba is that you can speculate on just about anything.
How would you know
Okay,
that?
so
Because I'm an Abba.
no, head off. So and that's how Aaron the Kohen made peace between people. He'd see people who got into an argument, right? He wouldn't get involved in he's right, you're right. He wouldn't get involved in it on that level. But rather, he brought everybody back to connecting with their inner essence. And as soon as you were connected with your inner essence, you yourself already thought, what kind of stupidity was this? Fighting over a toy, fighting over $1 million. You know, like for that, I have to break apart from my best friend. For that, I have to break apart from my brothers and sisters, right? So when you're just living superficially, yeah, you think that, there's all, I'm going to show you how powerful I am. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I want, etc. But when you're connected, right? This is basically what the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 32 of the Tanya, where he talks about how this is wrong. How is it possible to love every one of your brothers and sisters? The Alter Rebbe says it's all basically an issue of, are you connected deeply to your inner essence, or are you a superficial person? If you're connected to your essence, neshama, then you see in another person, there's another neshama. We all have the same one Father. We're all part of the same one source. And so there's a medrash that on this week's parsha it says Vayishma Moshe Vayipol al panav. Moshe Rabbeinu heard and he fell on his face. So the Gemara says, it's a Gemara, believe it or not. This is, and the Gemara is a Chassidish Sefer. What did he hear? He heard that he was being suspected of being adulterous. Yeah, so Shimon ben Gamliel says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, he heard that people were suspecting him of committing adultery. And there's another pasuk in Parshas Kisisa that says that when Moshe Rabbeinu would be walking from his tent to the Mishkan in the morning, the people would stand and look after him, follow him with their eyes. And why? Because they were afraid that the women were going to go with him, that he would be taking their wives. Now that's a whole discussion in itself, unfortunately we're hearing in the news about this rabbi and this one that did this and this one that did that. It's dangerous to be a rabbi. Let me put it to you this way. It's a dangerous profession. And so the Baal Shem Tov says, Moshe Rabbeinu and Bilam, they were, as far as prophecy was concerned, they were equivalent. When it says, Lo kam b'Yisrael ki Moshe od, that there was no other prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu among the Jews, but among the Goyim, there was somebody who was his equivalent was Bilam. Now, Bilam was a lowlife, but he was a prophet. Being a prophet doesn't mean that you're already, not every prophet is a holy man. And so Bilam is this lowlife, and everything that Bilam did, people suspected Moshe Rabbeinu of the same thing, because in their origin, their souls came from the same nitzotzot, but Bilam was from the side of Tumah, Moshe Rabbeinu was from the side of Kedusha. But the Baal Shem Tov says that Moshe Rabbeinu was born with every bad character trait that a person could have. The greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu is that he broke all those bad character traits and transformed them into something positive. So there's a parable or a story that's told that there was a king who made it his business to meet with every other king that was alive at his time. But then he heard that Moshe Rabbeinu was also a king, you know that he was a king in Ethiopia. And he wanted very much to meet Moshe Rabbeinu, but he was already too old to travel. So he sent a portrait artist to go and meet Moshe Rabbeinu and paint the portrait and bring it back to him. You've heard this? To bring it back to him, and because he wanted to see what Moshe Rabbeinu looks like. Now this king knew Chochmat HaPartzuf. He knew how to read faces. He comes back with the portrait. The king looks at it, and he says to the artist, this cannot be Moshe Rabbeinu. This man has a face of every terrible character trait, and he has the artist executed for failing to do his job. So he goes and sends another artist to meet Moshe Rabbeinu and to paint the portrait. And the artist comes to Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, "Oh my gosh, that other portrait was really accurate. What am I going to do?" So he manages to go up to Moshe Rabbeinu and he tells him, "Listen, I came to paint your portrait, and here's what happened to the first artist. And now I'm going to come back, and since I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen to me. Can you explain to me what's going on? Like, if you're such a great holy man, how come your face has the features of every bad character trait?" So Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Your problem is that you don't see very deeply. You see, in this world, people think, oh, somebody has a pleasant face, that means that they're a good person." He says, that's not what makes you a good person. What makes you a good person is if you have a very bad character trait and you transform it into positive, you make the choice to actually change yourself, then you can be said, this is a good person. But if you're born with a character trait where you just naturally love to give things away to stuff, it doesn't make you good. You're doing a good thing, but it doesn't make you good, because you haven't worked at it, right? What makes you good is that which you're most tested by, that you actually transform and change. That's what makes you good. Okay? So know that that whenever you're challenged with something that you have to overcome, know that what Hashem is doing is Hashem is sort of like presenting you with your spiritual supper for today, or your spiritual lunch, for you to grow right now, for you to develop and to be better. That's what it's about. So we're having Shalosh Shudas. You're all welcome. 7:30 in Yos Hashem. Shabbos Mevorchim. Bring your gang like you did last time. But you're going to be having a big farbrengen this Shabbos probably. Anyway,
It's
so
you might be able to slip away first.